Now, we're not all climbing in Central Texas. And what I mean by that is Central Texas is known for having great hardware at the top of its climb. They're very well prepared, and it makes it easy for the climber that's wanting to get down. You don't ever have to rappel because you can lower from the cold shuts that are already there. But what happens if you're not climbing in Central Texas? What happens if you're climbing somewhere else where maybe all you have is a bolt hanger and a simple rappel ring? Well, now the climber, when they get to the top and they clean the anchor, is forced to rappel down, which is a whole extra set of skills. I'm going to show you how to set this anchor up in order to rappel, but I'm not going to comprehensively cover the skill set of rappelling. You'll have to pick that skill set up on your own, or practice it at your local climbing gym, or learn it from someone else. So, and maybe it'll even be a subject of another video in the future. But for now, what we're going to pretend like is that these cold shuts are not here, and that all we have are these rappel rings. And first of all, you need to know that if you're going to rappel down a climb, that rope cannot run through a small profile anchor like this bolt hanger. It has to run through a thicker ring like a rappel ring, or like Metolius wrap anchors, which are outfitted on some climbs in Texas, but very few. The first thing I'm going to do when I get to the climb, same deal. I'm going to secure myself by clipping my PAS into the anchor. Once I'm safe now, though, I'm going to have to make a big decision. I'm going to have to decide to untie this rope and run it through those anchors. This is something that can leave a climber stranded if they don't do this right. So the first thing I like to do, just because I'm a little risk averse, is I like to take a piece of the rope down here away from the anchor on the belayer side. The belayer's gonna have to give me some slack to do so, but I tie a knot in it. I'm always carrying an extra carabiner or two. I take that extra carabiner and I clip that rope either to my belay loop, or to the, right here to my belay loop, or to a gear loop or something. But what I'm doing is I'm securing that rope, so should I accidentally let this end go, it doesn't fall all the way to the ground, leaving me stranded 50 feet up the climb. So once I know that I'm clipped in, I can undo my rope, I can untie from the climbing rope, I can untie my 8, I pull it out of the anchor, but again, it's secured to me with this carabiner. I then take the end of that rope and I run it through both rappel rings on this climb. I tie a knot in the end of it so that I don't accidentally rappel off the end, and I run it down as far as it will go. Now, in order to run the remainder of this rope through here, because what I'm going for is that both ends of this rope are on the ground next to my belayer. What I'll then do is, while holding the end of the rope that I'm working with, unclip my carabiner, put it back on my harness, untie the knot, and continue to run my rope until it is down on the ground next to my belayer. If I have a middle point marked in my rope, that might be a convenient place to have stopped between these two anchors, so I know that I'm in the middle and there's equal amounts of the rope now running down the climb onto the ground. Otherwise, you can communicate with your belayer and just ask them, are both my ends on the ground? And once they give you verbal confirmation of that, well, then you're good to go. Nevertheless, once those are on the ground, what I like to do personally is go ahead and set myself up to rappel. I take a belay device that can accept 2 ropes, run my ropes through that belay device in order to set up to rappel, picking up all the slack. Now the weight is actually on my belay device. And what I like to do now is, lastly, I like to secure a third hand on the break ends of this rope, and I do so by clipping a carabiner, actually by, first of all, girth hitching this auto block that I'm carrying. I'm going to girth hitch it down to my harness, and I'm going to do my best to keep the sewn end out of the way. So I have that down here out of the way. I'm going to wrap these ends around the brake rope 1, 2, 3 times, clipping it with a carabiner, a locking carabiner, and then that's going to clip to the leg loop of my harness. And once I have that, it is now going to hold those ends of the brake rope down, holding this in the lock position and keeping me from rappelling down without addressing it. Once that's done, again, I'm free to begin taking the anchor down. So just like we did before, any of the material that I put up, I'm going to take that material down with me, unclipping it all, putting it onto my harness. Once I've confirmed that this is all set up correctly, I do one more double check. I look at my third hand. Is that locked? Yes. Is this set up correctly? Yes. Is my carabiner locked? Yes. Is it run through both anchors? Yes. If it has all of those components and I'm ready, then and only then do I undo my tether and begin rappelling down the climb. So now unlock my tether, carabiner, unclip it from the anchor, hands on the brake rope, I can now begin to rappel down the climb until I'm safely at the bottom. Now when I'm at the bottom, you may be wondering, well shoot, you left the rope up there, you ran it through the anchor. I did. However, if you look, as long as I untie my knots that I tied in that rope, then even from 50 or 60 feet down, I can pull the opposite end of the one that I ran through the anchor, and if you watch the anchor now, that rope will run down, falling to the ground. Now everything that I took up onto the climb with me is down, and all I've left behind is the permanent gear. That's the quick and dirty on how to clean an anchor, especially a sport climbing anchor in a top rope setting in Texas. I hope you've learned something today. Bring out your climbing gear, practice it on your own. Go through methodically all of those steps, because these are the steps that will keep you safe and will keep your climbing partner safe. It's up to you to make sure that you know everything you need to know before you go to the top of a climb, and that's what we have these videos for. Thanks for joining us today.